Hi everyone, it's Sunday, May 19th, time for another HideNet Week in Review. I'm Vera Dordick. As usual, let's start with the U.S. hide market, where everyone was just calling it more of the same. Prices this week were again weekly steady to lower, and there were plenty of rumors about sales of some selections a couple of dollars below the posted price. Overall, it's the same situation with customers in China trying to push the market lower because they already have plenty of inventory and they want to average down the cost. Yet again, heavy Texas steers were unchanged at $22 for seasonal averages, but we were hearing about lower levels on this selection. Cow interest is still quite poor, but at the same time, the lower cow slaughter can help prop up the price levels, which are already pretty low. Combined export sales for the period ending May 9th were a whopping 62% higher at 554,400. Combined shipments were down by 23% at 436,000. Estimated slaughter for the week ending yesterday, May 18th, was lower at 598,000, partly because one U.S. packer cut back on working hours last week. Turning to Europe, editor Andrea Guallo says that sellers did not move their production for the month, so they are looking for alternatives outside of Europe. And while European hides have always had a certain elevated value, they're finding a market right now that does not value them. And this is an unprecedented situation for Europe, he says. Looking at British origins, prices were again unchanged. The euro strengthened against the dollar last week, but the pound was essentially unchanged. So this means that perhaps England might have some advantage in exporting hides to Asia. So the 36 plus is unchanged at 80 cents sterling per kilo, and for Irish sellers, prices were steady at 87 cents a kilo in euros, but there really isn't any demand in Europe. For European bulls, the week was an average one, and sellers decided to remain firm on their current prices, so they really had few sales. Reference prices for North German bulls at 40 to 49 kilos were unchanged at 90 to 95 cents in euros, but really only some small lots sold last week for 90 cents per kilo. South German hides were largely unchanged. Among European cows, the light sizes were mainly intended for Asian tanneries, but then again, those buyers have slowed their purchasing for seasonal reasons and because there's no possibility of an Asian export recovery in Europe and the US. So in Europe, these hides are building up, and then regarding veal skins, some small sizes are showing signs of a slowdown. In his analysis this week, Andrea reiterates that the market was unchanged, and he talks about how raising or lowering prices is not going to alter the situation. He also discusses the unusual spot the European market is in, where their material is not getting its usual value. From South America, editor Ronald Guiel reports that the average price of fresh hides was unchanged this week at $1.01 per kilo. The reference price of TR1 was also stable at 70 cents per square foot. In other news, we have to mention the devastating floods that have hit parts of Brazil, mostly in Rio Grande do Sul, which is where there are a lot of tanneries, footwear production facilities, and a lot of agriculture. Looking at Brazil's hides and skin exports in April, they were 9% higher than the previous month and over 23% higher than the same month last year. The data was presented by the Ministry of Development, Industry, Commerce, and Services, and it was analyzed by the CICB. In volume, exports were actually higher by over 35% in meters and 62.5% in tons compared to April 2023. And compared to March, the increases were almost 16% in area and over 18% in weight. First quarter exports in value were 15% more than they were in the first quarter last year. Also in Brazil, the cattle slaughter for the first quarter was up by 24%. Footwear exports, however, fell by over 26% in the January to April period. In Paraguay, 3 Minerva plants have been authorized to export to Canada, and the Peruvian president is visiting China to discuss beef exports. That is all we have for this week, and good night from HideNet.